Hey Cowboys Nation, welcome back to another deep dive into everything going on with America's team. Today we're unpacking some chatter that's been making the rounds, and honestly, it's one of those moments where you really have to pay attention to the details and separate what's hype from what's real. So, let's break this down together and look at what's really being said, because there's a lot of noise out there. And if you just glance at the headlines or listen half-heartedly, you're going to walk away with the wrong idea. Recently, there's been this clip circulating where someone seems to be talking about Dak Prescott being in a top 3 MVP conversation, and I want to be crystal clear, when you listen closely, that's not exactly what's happening. The context matters, and the way it's been packaged to fans is deliberately misleading. The player actually being praised at length is Jordan Love, Green Bay's quarterback, who's been stepping up for his team despite missing key receivers for much of the season. The snippet that got reshared made it sound like all this praise was directed at Dak, but a careful listen tells a completely different story. This is a perfect example of why it's so important to be cautious about the media you consume and the platforms you follow. Misleading headlines or clips can make it seem like someone is saying something they never really said, especially when it comes to MVP discussions or player recognition. The person speaking in the clip mentions Dak Prescott briefly, literally a couple of seconds. But the bulk of the conversation is about another quarterback entirely, and yet, some platforms repackaged it in a way that made it feel like Dak was being celebrated when, in reality, the praise wasn't for him. Now, let's talk about what was actually said. The speaker was highlighting Jordan Love's performance over the last stretch of games, noting that he's been excelling even while missing major pieces of his receiving corps. When you factor in the strength of schedule and the adversity he's faced, the argument is that Love deserves more recognition than he's getting. The discussion even goes into specifics about which receivers were absent early in the season and how Love adapted to those challenges. It's clear from the context that this isn't about Dak's situation with the Cowboys. Dak has had his moments, sure, but he wasn't missing half of his key targets. And this particular clip isn't about him. This kind of misrepresentation is frustrating for fans because it creates confusion and can generate false narratives about players and teams. For instance, Cowboys fans might see this clip and think someone from another team's front office or media is giving Dak a huge endorsement. But if you actually pay attention, that's not what's happening. The praise being discussed is fully contextual and specific to Love's circumstances, and Dak's mention is cursory at best. Misleading clips like this exploit the natural loyalty and emotions of fans, especially those who are invested in seeing their quarterback or team recognized. Beyond the misinformation, there's also a layer of fan culture that comes into play here. People get attached to narratives, especially when it comes to favorite players or former stars. In this case, some fans might want to cling to the idea that Dak is being validated as an MVP-level talent by outside voices, but it's important to separate the hype from reality. The clip has been edited or presented in a way that amplifies the perception of praise for Dak, but the actual content doesn't support that conclusion. This is where critical listening and context are essential, because it can be easy to misinterpret what someone is saying if you're only skimming or reacting to headlines. It's also worth noting the dynamics between teams and players when it comes to public perception. The way clips are shared, the way quotes are framed, and even subtle editing choices can influence how fans perceive a player's standing or reputation. In this instance, the repackaging of a Jordan Love-focused comment to appear as praise for Dak Prescott is a classic example of manipulating perception for clicks or engagement. Fans of the Cowboys naturally want their quarterback recognized, but it's crucial to rely on actual statements and performance rather than being swayed by deceptive framing. Listening closely, it's clear that Love's performance is the subject of admiration here, particularly for stepping up in the absence of key teammates. The speaker mentions the challenges of missing multiple receivers, the strength of the schedule, and how Love has handled those pressures. There's no equivalent context for Dak in this clip, yet the way it was circulated suggested otherwise. It's a reminder that not every statement or clip is what it seems, and as a fan base, we have to stay sharp and avoid getting caught up in misleading narratives, especially those that might make us think a former player or someone outside the team is praising our guys more than they actually are. Another interesting point is the way this situation highlights the emotional investment of fans. It's natural to want to see validation for your team or your favorite players, but sometimes that desire can cloud judgment. when fans latch onto a headline or a snippet without understanding the full context. It can create unnecessary controversy or false excitement. In this case, it wasn't about Dak's achievements in any meaningful way. It was about someone else's journey and success. Yet, because of how it was packaged, some fans were led to believe Dak was being spotlighted, which is simply not accurate. We also have to consider how these misrepresentations affect the narrative around a player's legacy and current performance. Dak Prescott has earned his place as a key figure for the Cowboys, and his accomplishments stand on their own, but when clips like this circulate, it can dilute the discussion and create confusion about what is being said or who is being recognized. Fans need to approach such content critically, understanding that context, specific details, and actual words matter far more than the headlines or snippets designed to grab attention. In the bigger picture, this is about accountability in sports media and fan engagement. Platforms, clips, and social media posts have enormous influence over perception, and when content is selectively edited or framed deceptively, it undermines the integrity of discussions about players and performance. For fans, the takeaway is to always pay attention to the details, listen to the full statements, understand the context, and recognize the difference between actual praise and narrative manipulation. Ultimately, this clip serves as a lesson in reading between the lines. While Dak Prescott is a phenomenal quarterback deserving of recognition in this particular instance, the focus is not on him. It's about Jordan Love overcoming challenges, performing at a high level, and earning acknowledgement for his efforts. Misleading headlines or clips might make it seem otherwise, but clarity comes from careful attention to what's actually being said. Cowboys fans know that performance speaks for itself, and external commentary shouldn't be misconstrued to create drama where none exists. This situation also underscores how closely fans watch and dissect every word related to their team. Loyalty can sometimes make it easy to accept content at face value, especially if it seems to suit or the desired narrative. However, as we see here, not everything is as it appears. Understanding the context and the real subject of commentary is essential, because otherwise, the discussion becomes muddled, and genuine achievements or challenges like those of Love in this case get lost in translation. The lesson for fans is clear: don't let selective clips or misleading packaging shape your opinion of a player or performance. Listen, analyze, and consider the full context. For Dak, his contributions remain significant and visible, but this particular moment is not about him. Recognizing this distinction is what separates informed fans from those who simply react to headlines or viral snippets. By staying sharp and discerning, Cowboys Nation can continue to celebrate our team while maintaining clarity about what is truly happening across the league. Continuing from where we left off, let's dig deeper into why situations like this spark so much conversation in the Cowboys community and across the league. Fans are passionate, and rightly so, because the emotional investment we have in our team is immense. Every play, every decision, every off-field situation gets magnified, and clips like the one we just discussed only fuel the fire. It's easy to get caught up in the surface-level interpretation, but taking a step back and analyzing the full picture reveals a far more nuanced story. Jordan Love's performance is the real headline here, not Dak Prescott's brief mention. Yet the way content was shared made it seem otherwise. This is a prime example of how narratives can be constructed around partial truths. What makes this situation particularly interesting is the interplay between media, fan perception, and player legacies. When a player leaves a team under contentious circumstances, as has been the case in several high-profile moves around the league, every comment about them is scrutinized intensely. Fans naturally want to see their team's players uplifted and celebrated, and any perceived slight or underappreciation can lead to strong reactions. In this scenario, a brief acknowledgement of Dak's play was amplified into a narrative that he was receiving major praise from an external voice, which, in reality, wasn't the case. Understanding this dynamic is essential because it shows how easily information can be reframed to fit a particular story. Another layer to consider is the psychology of fandom. Cowboys fans, like those of many iconic teams, have a deep connection to the history and identity of the franchise. This connection makes it tempting to interpret every mention of a former or current player through a lens of loyalty and desire for recognition. When content creators or media outlets selectively highlight certain words or phrases, it can trigger a strong emotional response, even if the substance of the statement doesn't support the reaction. In the clip we analyzed, This emotional reaction was clearly leveraged, whether intentionally or not, to create a perception of praise for Dak Prescott that simply wasn't there. It's also worth discussing the broader implications for player reputation and public perception. Dak Prescott's standing as a leader of the Cowboys is already well established through his on-field performance, leadership, and consistency. However, clips like this, when misrepresented, have the potential to shift casual observers' impressions of both him and the other players involved. In the case of Jordan Love, the commentary focused on his resilience and ability to perform under challenging circumstances, which is significant in itself. Yet, the framing of the clip suggested a different story, one that could mislead fans into thinking Dak was being celebrated in a way that the clip doesn't actually support. This situation also highlights the importance of critical media literacy for sports fans. It's not enough to watch a short clip or read a headline. Understanding the full context is crucial. In this case, listeners who paid close attention would realize that Jordan Love is the player receiving detailed recognition for his achievements. While Dak's mention is fleeting, the difference may seem subtle at first, but it completely changes the narrative. Fans who take the time to analyze statements critically are better equipped to navigate the noise and maintain clarity about who is being praised and why. Moreover, this scenario illustrates how platforms and personalities can influence fan perception. Certain media accounts have the reach and credibility to shape how discussions about players unfold. When content is selectively edited or presented without full context, it can create false narratives that spread rapidly. Cowboys fans, being passionate and highly engaged, are particularly susceptible to these kinds of framing techniques because the content touches on players they care about deeply. Recognizing the intent and method behind these clips helps fans distinguish between genuine analysis and manipulated narratives. Let's also consider the timing of these clips and how that affects perception. The NFL season is filled with high-stakes moments, and fans are constantly looking for confirmation of their team's strength and their favorite players' value. During periods when Dak Prescott is performing well or when discussions around MVP candidates arise, any external commentary, even a brief mention, can be magnified to feel like major recognition. In the case of the clip we reviewed, the timing was critical in shaping the perception that Dak was being highlighted, when the actual content was focused elsewhere. Timing and media framing often matters as much as the words themselves. Before we roll on, subscribe to Cowboys Wire News, drop a like, and turn on the bell. Your support keeps the Dallas Cowboys updates coming. Tell us what you think in the comments. A storm seems to be brewing in Dallas, and it's coming straight from the mouth of Dak Prescott. The Cowboys quarterback, usually measured and composed in public statements, reportedly dropped a bombshell that has instantly ignited speculation across the league. If he comes back, I'm out of this team, Prescott allegedly declared. The cryptic warning has sent fans and insiders into a frenzy, trying to decipher who he might be and what it could mean for the franchise. Rumors suggest that Prescott could be referring to a former teammate with a controversial history in the locker room, a player whose presence might disrupt the chemistry the quarterback has worked so hard to cultivate. Some insiders whisper that the issue isn't purely personal, it's strategic. Prescott's leadership style thrives on cohesion and trust, and the return of a player with a complicated reputation could undermine that delicate balance. The Cowboys organization has so far maintained a cloak of secrecy, refusing to comment directly on Prescott's remark. Sources close to the team hint that internal meetings have been taking place behind closed doors, but no official statements have been released. This silence, however, has only fueled the speculation, with social media buzzing nonstop about potential targets and scenarios. Could this be a veiled threat or a genuine ultimatum? NFL analysts are weighing in, noting that Prescott's comment reflects a broader tension between veteran players and management decisions. The Cowboys are known for making bold moves, but Prescott's loyalty to his team culture may be stronger than the allure of high-profile acquisitions. If the player in question does return, will the franchise risk losing its star quarterback? Or could this be a strategic maneuver to influence front office decisions? Before the roster is finalized, fans are divided. Some applaud Prescott for standing his ground and prioritizing team dynamics over personal glory. Others worry that the Cowboys could face a seismic shakeup if the rumored players come back. Triggers a chain reaction in the locker room. In any case, the buzz is impossible to ignore. The Cowboys season might hinge on a question that nobody has a definitive answer to yet, and the league's gossip mills are running at full throttle. One thing is certain: Dak Prescott has just added fuel to a fire that shows no signs of burning out anytime soon. That's a wrap from Cowboys Wire News. For breaking Cowboys updates, subscribe, drop a like, and turn on the bell. Tell us your take in the comments.